don't.
Desired tightness.
Hold on, don't say twist the lips. Just stop. Stop.
The desired tightness, like the bottom of a torch lighter. Where they
stop. Can't say twist the lips.
Yeah, I used to have an aunt that was like
on a villain.
My aunt used to like that. Used to how she punished her kids, and my mom used to sing this song, "Me and Me and Miss Charlene, twist your lips and make you scream."
Jesus. It sounds like one of those German fairy tales that aren't censored or rewritten.
I think she was German or like something, but she would like when her kids would misbehave, she'd grab their lips and like fucking twist.
That's violent, man.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone using candor and humor. If you don't listen, we'll rip your lips off or we'll twist them.
German style.
Yes.
We're joined here today by Jordan De La Grange. How you doing, Jordan?
Outstanding. Thanks for having me on the show today, Jay.
Love having you back. Jordan is a TA alum. We're going to get to that. Gary, what's going on, my man?
I think you got to announce him for his fights like that. Like you got to get the job as the announcer. And then,
oh man,
that was like a pretty good announcing job.
Oh,
my first fight, I loved the announcer so much. He literally, most people, I'm from the Midwest, and they just say my last name like Delagrange.
Yeah, that's how it is here in America.
Delagrange. But he walks out there and he goes, Jordan De La Grange. And I'm just like, all right, let's go. I don't even care. Let's go.
Right? It's respectful.
Actually,
to know how to properly pronounce someone's name, especially if they're a professional. You're getting ready to put them out on, the stage you've been training your whole life, and they're like, Grangy, and you're like, no, come on, man. This isn't how I imagined my moment. Hands up in the air and they pronounce your name wrong.
Especially for like a debut or something. It's like you're really trying to put out what you are, and then something like that. I mean, I wouldn't let it throw me off, but some people might,
You're cool as a cucumber, though. That's
cool as a cucumber.
I love how smooth Jordan is. He's always got that even keel, always measured in what he's saying and thoughtfully listening, not thinking about what he's going to respond with while you're talking, which is very rare in this day and age. And I love that he talks very deeply and thinks about things from a holistic approach. Jordan, man, missed you on the show. I haven't seen you in a long time. Love having you back on. What's going on out there in LA, man?
Dude, so much has changed. So much has changed. It's almost like I'm an entirely different person with an entirely different life path. I mean, a lot of the core fundamentals have stayed the same. And I'd also like to say that, dude, it's a huge pleasure to be back talking to you guys again, talking about these changes. Last time that we talked, I was still pursuing more of the acting side of things. I was still in school pursuing the doctorate in Chinese medicine, but I feel like I was still holding on to some things, especially past things, that weren't fulfilling my purpose to its full potential. Now I feel like I'm walking that path. Like I really know what I'm doing.
I love that. And I think you would probably agree that without taking that fork in the road at some point, you wouldn't have the tools in your toolbox for rejoining that same road and being as effective as you could be.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think there were some serious hardships and like mind-opening realizations that I had to make. And now look at like, if I had continued down the acting path and really just like tried to force something that wasn't happening, SAG-AFTRA's on strike right now. People aren't getting work. I wouldn't be doing anything, I'd still be in school. I'd still be studying. But now I feel like getting started with this fight career, I'm going on my 4th fight now. Next week, next Saturday.
My man.
With Sparstar. Sparstar is a hell of a promotion. I love Michael Gross. I love Heather. They're all like really genuine human beings, and they give me great fights every time. Whether it's a win or a lose, it's always great fights, and I'm able to get out there and like show what I can do. And they also allow me to bring my doctors with me, and we set up a little tent, and we go and we treat the fighters for free. And through that, not only did I get a lot of great fight content and fight exposure, but I also connected with so many people in the fight community in such a short amount of time. It's insane. I ended up just, you know, I trained with the traditional martial arts school, West Coast Wing Chun. And that was pretty much the only thing that I did for 5 years. And then after I started fighting, boom, all of a sudden I'm getting invited to Dan Henderson's in Temecula. Boom, I'm going to Muay Thai schools, multiple different gyms, sparring, expanding, going to Gracie schools to do BJJ and just like learning the art on a whole nother level, all through my connection to people. And it's been crazy, man, the journey.
Would you say, I think the analogy outside looking in, it's kind of like reading a book about what you want to be for a long period of time, studying it inside and out, then closing it and getting into the world in the practical use scenario where you actually get to put all those skills that you've been working on and honing. Because you're, I mean, super meticulous in every art that you approach. I mean, I can't explain to people. Watching you with nunchucks is amazing. And I tell you, it's a way different experience than opening the door with my dad in his underwear, playing with his in like 1979. Like, you see him and
that was
it's an
a
art form. You
different
see that,
thing.
it's a core memory that shocks you to the, end of,
Right.
end of all time. But
Yeah.
I say that because while you were a Marine as well, but I feel like all of that time that you've studied and traveled and put into philosophy and medicinal, uses and holistic approaches to things, that you now have a toolbox that gets you to get out there and put it to practical use.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of compacted experience. That's the best way that I can describe it, because I left my home when I was 17
Mm.
and they shipped me all the way across the country. So, I went home, I still saw my family, I still had leave days, but majority of my time I was with other Marines or by myself. I was always the type of guy who preferred to be by myself. Um, so extremely introverted, which I finally feel like I've broken that shell through the fight career. Um, and it's changed me in some ways, because I realized that there's so much when you have a goal and a purpose and you're trying to work towards something, like you cannot do it by yourself.
You're not
You
supposed to.
need other people. Yeah. You need other people. You need a community and you need to be able to communicate, and having the ability to communicate and share what's important to you with others, and also at the same time be able to connect to what's important to them, has been like the most valuable skill in taking my life from reading a book and not applying to the stage where I'm exploring and applying, to now the stage where I'm writing and giving and exchanging.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Gary, you got any questions? I mean, probably tons.
Yeah, I don't even know where to really start. I feel like I've seen your setup at the at some fights or in some footage or something. The doctor area. I'm not sure where, but that's very familiar to me. But I speak with a lot of people in the medical field, especially involving fighting, and so many people are into different types of healing, and everybody's kind of got an open mind, I think, in this world. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people will go to different non-traditional types of medicine and different ways to heal the body and the mind and the soul. And I think that's pretty cool because it's based in martial arts, and, really old, none of this modern technology existed when martial arts started. So I think that people getting into the ancient ways of doing things and or at least being open to different ways to heal the body. And I think it's what, we're looked at I put myself in the martial arts, mixed martial arts world. I've been doing it for 20 years as like barbarian still by some people, and this is just this violent sport. But there's so many smart people,
Mhm.
every level of education, whether it be street education or master's degrees from top universities that are in this. And, when it comes to it used to be just bro science and iron sharpens iron. And we wrap ourselves in a garbage bag to cut the weight. And we
Please
butt
define
heads
bro
like Rams.
science. I need to know what bro science is.
It's like when it comes to like cutting weight, like you just gotta eat like a bunch of potatoes, man, and then like you gotta
Oh,
like
yeah,
just
yeah,
chug,
yeah. Your
like,
buddy
chug a
Trust
telling
me,
you to
couple
bro.
spit after drinking this for an hour and you'll lose 6 extra ounces for a wrestling match.
Yeah,
All this
like
weird crap. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was
There's a way
once
to do it.
told to take a plastic bag, like a piece of a plastic bag, like a Walmart bag, and chew on it like for hours.
Don't they come with
and
warning labels
spit
for
it.
infants for that exact reason?
And
Yeah,
I literally told, this is my friend, you know, but I told him, like, dude, I'm not doing that. And he got mad at me. He was like, what? Like, trust me, bro. Like, I'm like, no.
Just trust me, bro, is all you need to know. Okay, bro.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah, as soon as someone says "trust me, bro," I'm like, yeah, we're not doing whatever you're about to tell me next. So you can
That should
stop
be our
talking.
next T-shirt. Our next T-shirt should
trust
be
me, bro.
something. Trust me, bro, and just somebody holding something out to you like this with a little piece of plastic. Gary, you want to make that
Something that is
Yeah, I'm
very
gonna make it
bad
right now. Yeah. But it's the progression of shit. You know, it's like there's people with degrees in all of this stuff now that have like really studied it. But you know, growing up when I wrestled as a young kid, you know, the early '90s or whatever, and you know, it was fucking going to my mom's Grand Am with garbage bags and duct tape, sweat your
Yep.
fucking balls off. You know, and then you know, it was like that deep into you know Ultimate Fighter where they're cutting weight like that and shit. You know, deep into the seasons before we started getting people like Tyler Minton and other people that like really studied the science of it. And
That dude's
you know,
smart. That guy's really smart.
Yeah.
He knows his stuff. I love watching all of his videos on Instagram. He's constantly just sharing the best advice.
Yeah, and it's like he'll tell you what he doesn't know, and these other guys would never do that, you know. And there's everybody's body's different and shit, and getting everyone to cut weight or do anything the same way, you know, I don't believe is effective. You got to kind of know the people you're working with, and I think, and then the recovery is another thing. It used to be like maybe an ice bath, you know, that was it, and now there's all different types of ways to recover. And,
Oh, don't even get me started, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're here for, my man.
Exactly.
This is the moment.
I'm here to spread the knowledge. I thoroughly enjoyed The Ultimate Fighter this season, and one of my buddies was actually on there on McGregor's team. His name's Trevor Wells.
Yep.
Yeah, that dude's a beast.
Yeah. It was a interesting season to execute, but it came out good. Trevor's a tough dude. I think the good and the bad about having a guy like Conor McGregor is he does bring eyeballs to the show, but they stay on him a little more than they should.
Yeah.
You know, there's these guys that, you know, are up and coming guys and we're trying to tell their stories in a very limited amount of time. Once they went onto linear television again, you're set to 42 minutes and that's it. You know, we have a little leeway when we're online. But the fight goes long and that's half the episode. And then you have the previously on, the next on, the weigh in, the fight announcement. You have all these pieces of business that every episode needs to have. Like to actually tell the stories of these guys becomes very difficult and gives you very little time to do so.
Well, I'd say that it's an art, and you guys perfected it for many, many, many years, getting that window into these guys' lives with the slight changes in things like lighting or the way that somebody looks, because it does focus you longer, you know, into that person's gaze. So you're listening to them, even though it's a short amount of time, it's much more impactful. Sorry, I like to give you your compliments on this, because when Gary and I first met, we were talking, you know, probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later, I asked him, you know, because I watched that show and for a long time, just alone sitting in my, my den at night. And I remember in one season that when they were speaking with the fighters and talking about like their backstory, things that were really important, you know, was that one-on-one, you know, time where you don't see the person actually interviewing them. They're just speaking to the camera. But there was a light, a singular light that sat around their pupil right in the eye, that it was almost hypnotic, the way that it erased everything else in the room and allowed you to have a direct link to that person speaking. You weren't involved with anything else. And I think that that's something that creators don't get a chance to speak about or highlight? Because I'm sure those fighters would tell you that people were like, wow, you look great on camera. You were really engaging, that type of thing. I think it's important to recognize that, like Jordan said earlier, you need a community. And I'm glad that you've found your community, because that gives you an opportunity to spread that great stuff that you're spreading. Sorry for cutting you off, Gary, but I think that you really deserve that highlight, because it is an art to be standing there with all these people filled with, so many emotions in a boiler, a boiling pot of water, and you've got to make art at the same time. That is some serious skill.
I got some good people around me. I mean, the interviews look on the TV shows is very important and very criticized. And we used to have these elaborate backgrounds and, build them out for days and all this lighting and everything. And then our director of photography, Michael Khalili, just decided like that's taking away from what everything really is. And ring lights are very popular now. They weren't 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
He made an octagon shaped light that's quite large. The camera sits in the middle of the light. And blacks out the room, and they sit backwards like Cool Kid in the Cafeteria style on the fucking chair with their face right to the camera, and that's it. A window into the soul, no laser lights and backgrounds, and
So
Chuck and Tito
impactful.
season. We had like fire and ice theme, and we had all this shit that they looked cool in the time. You look back at it now, you're like, what the fuck were we doing? But
It's right next to your No Fear t-shirt.
yeah, well, right next to our tap out t-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
The tap out guys used to help us design those things, and they're not knocking them because we were right in
Yeah,
it. That was just the
it was
look
the
at
style.
the time, and like, yeah, I fucking have 300 tap out shirts in this apartment somewhere. If you start digging in crates and shit, and those guys were super integral into like making MMA what it was. They brought it into the mainstream of fashion and everything else. Maybe not the best fashion ever, but it got into everyone had one. People will lie, but if they were in the MMA world at that time, they had a tap out shirt, at least one.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
And
I
those guys
forgot
started.
about
I
them,
remember
actually, until you said that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, holy crap. Those shirts were everywhere.
Yeah, they started out of the trunk of their car. I remember UFC 39 or something around there.
Oh, now I like
buying
them.
a shirt. Yeah, trunk. I mean, they were outside the MGM Grand parking lot getting harassed by security, and he's arguing with the guy like, "Man, this is how the fighters, they make their money. Like, let me just fucking sell this guy's T-shirt."
I love that.
And like that dude, he's no longer here anymore, but he was a really good dude, and
Wow.
like he gave every dime he fucking made at the beginning to get these fighters a chance to get to the next fight, to get their medicals done, to do what you had to do.
That's a hell of a story.
And it became fucking, yeah, man. He was fucking. People took, he had his face painted, and they looked all crazy and looked a little like, a little unapproachable in a way, maybe, but they were fucking good dudes, and all they gave a shit about was the fighters. And that's a whole subsection, not to go on a tangent, but obviously knowing Jordan a little, and knowing him a lot, and everything you said about him, it's a good person in this business, and there's so many of them. And outside looking in, you don't see that. You don't see people are thoughtful and kind and do these kinds of things. But I could count on one hand the amount of people I fucking hated in the last 20 years in this business, and any other business. I would need a lot more hands.
There's the good and the bad, man. And I think a lot of people look at fighting and they see more the bad. It's very misunderstood. One thing I liked about The Ultimate Fighter was I really got a sense to the why for a lot of the guys, why they were fighting. And that's a really good message to give, because that is like, as a martial artist, that's a core principle. That's like Ip Man talked about having heart as a fighter and how important heart is. And what that really means is, what is your purpose? Like, what are you really fighting for? You're not just fighting for yourself or just fighting to fight because you think it's fun. There is something inside you that makes you fight, and someone who has that well defined as a fighter is going to go a lot further than someone who doesn't have that well defined, in my opinion.
I agree. And it's not just in the fight. It's in getting up in the morning to run. It's in going to that practice on a Saturday. It's in staying later. It's not just the will to win in the fight. It's the will to fucking kick your own ass so hard to get to the, where you need to be physically and mentally to be prepared for that fight too.
Are you being authentic, or are you a character? I mean, that's the two different things. Are you playing a role? Are you playing fighter? because you feel like fighter is going to get you the most of what you feel good about in the accolades department or whatever it is? Or do you wake up, and you know that that is who you are and what you were made to do, and you're going to use it to fuel whatever other passion you have as well, however it is the tool that you make it, right? But the people that are playing the role are the ones that aren't going to be successful. That's the ones that you're describing, Jordan, that there's the good and the misled, right? And I don't say misled within like the MMA community. I mean misled to believe that they can emulate other people and feel successful and full. Simple as that.
Yeah, there's another side to it too. There's guys that are so athletically gifted that they get pulled into this sport and everyone tells them like, you got to do this, right? They don't fucking like it though. They don't like hurting people or they don't like fighting. It's a grind. You're a sweaty dudes bleeding in your fucking face all day and you're in uncomfortable situations all the
Dodgeball
time.
moments.
Yeah, it sucks a lot. And then you have to embrace that suck. But if you hate it, but you just happen to be a freak athlete and you're just whipping everybody's ass on the come up, and like, then it gets to the point where everyone's a freak athlete, and then you have to have all that other shit too. Like a lot of them just did it because it was their only option, or because they were so good they could not do it, and then they get to a point where it's just their heart's not in it, and that's when you start getting fucking separated from consciousness, and seriously injured. And it's sometimes it's malicious and they're just trying to capitalize on what the popular thing is at the time, or they think they'll get them chicks, or they're just the tough dude and they don't do it the right way and they only get
The
so far.
brain
But
is
sometimes it's just kind of
swimming in semen.
yeah.
We do some
Sometimes it's
stupid
just
shit around those peak years.
yeah.
I think a lot of those guys get weeded out in the amateurs. I mean, some of them make it to pro.
Oh, that's
Which
scary.
It's a testament to why like MMA amateur shit is much better than boxing. I mean, there's a lot of differences, but in boxing they do everything they can to protect that even in the amateurs. And then in MMA, you see a lot of great fighters that got losses as amateurs. And I think that's where you take your losses. If you're not a very good grappler, or you're not sure, go fucking fight a black belt. If your boxing is suspect, go fight a boxer. It's like learn then, not later, and progress all these skills. But, I've argued with managers about this before. They're trying to do that in MMA a little bit and said, hey, man, like this guy got to know what it's like to take that loss now. Because it's cliche as fuck, but you do learn a lot more from losses in a way. If I go out there and starch the guy in 15 seconds every time, like I don't know what's going to be like when I'm in that triangle in third round and I'm tired and brain's not working right. And how the fuck to get out of that,
Yeah, I mean, when I'm an amateur now, and I want my hardest opponents right now. And I'm not even going out there to win every fight, but I do know if I want to continue to spread this message, I've got to win when I go pro, because if I don't win, they're not going to keep signing me, But when it comes to amateur, I have a synchronous and mutually beneficial relationship with these promotions, and they want to put on shows. They don't care if people are losing, you know. They care about if it's mutually beneficial to sign you or get you on the cards, So I've lost my last two fights, and they were both banger fights. I learned so much, and I'm not even pressed about why I lost. I'm ready to get in there again. You know what I mean? I may have felt a certain way directly after, and I think every fighter goes through that. And to be honest with you, I had this like delayed awakening starting with the death of my mentor, Dave Lee, who was huge Hollywood stunt guy. Taught me a lot about what I know when it comes to martial arts and also life philosophy and also acting, stunt acting, things like that. He passed really unexpectedly for a lot of people, especially for me. He didn't even tell me that he had lung cancer. And then I found out as he was on his deathbed. It was rough.
Yeah, I remember that. We talked quite a bit about it.
Yeah.
Super sad. Again, I'm still sorry for you.
Dude, it was a week before, or a couple weeks before my first fight. And I won that fight. And then I was like, okay, I'm doing something and I'm doing it for him. And then my second fight came around, and this one was in Lake Elsinore at the Diamond. And that fight was crazy, bloody. Uh, I lost that one by decision. And this is when I started to feel the decline of my motivation, because I've always like, I don't like to hurt people. Like Gary was saying, there's people who don't like to hurt people.
No.
And I was trying to figure out, like, where am I going to get this reason to actually give it everything, you know? And then the third fight was coming around, got in there. I was going crazy the first round, going insane on him. And then in the second round, something happened where I was just like so gassed, but it wasn't even physical gas. It was just like I was sitting there and he had me in an arm choke, and I knew I could just like telephone out of it. And one of my buddies confirmed that. He's like, dude, you could have just done this and you would have been good. But I was sitting there and I'm like, why am I in here right now? Like, what am I doing here? Like, I can just tap and be done and then go to my tent, go treat fighters. And that's what I'm really here to do. But now, going into this next fight, I had a moment where I went home, visited my dad for a week right before Father's Day. And for some reason, I was thinking about a lot of things. I was going through a lot of changes in my mind in regards to my friends, in regards to my family, in regards to what I'm doing with my life. And I had a lot of anger because I had this experience with my sister where she got put on Paxil by someone who's not even a doctor. And then she stopped taking it, and it's an SSRI.
Mm.
When you stop taking an SSRI cold turkey, what happens is it permanently damages your nervous system and causes you to go basically psychotic and manic.
Hmm.
And I had to go through that experience over Christmas, which was supposed to be a good time for me with me and my family. And I had to diagnose her and like send her to the ER and tell these doctors, like, listen, this is what you need to put her on right now. Put her on lamotrigine to coat her neurons and get her back on Paxil and start weaning her off this, get her onto appropriate medication. Like, I
Hmm.
can't believe you fucked this up. Like, she's got a family, you know? And I got angry. I got real angry. And that's when this anger started swelling. And that's when I suddenly got all this energy to start writing my book, which I'll name drop now, I guess, 5 Elements of Preventative Medicine, which is coming out in September. And now I'm going
Congratulations. You've
into
been
this
working
next
on that
fight
for a long time.
about 2 years now. But it was like a steady pace working on it. And then all of a sudden when this happened, it was just like the words were just flowing, and it wasn't even coming from in my brain. It was like coming from the universe or something, man. Like I was just putting this stuff down, like writing like 10,000 words a day. And now we're finally done and just in the editing stage. And now I'm thinking about, this is why I'm fighting, because I'm pissed, man. Like, America healthcare is just shit. Like, it's straight shit, man. Look at Taiwan, look at Japan. Like, healthcare there is so readily available,
Hmm.
mostly free or taken from their taxes in a reasonable way. They utilize the way that their government funds it in an incredibly like proactive way, focus on preventative healthcare. It's balanced within the 5 elements mentioning in my book. It has a continuum. One isn't taking too much from the other, but you look at ours and it's it's run like a business, man. Like, straight up. I had a scientist tell me that the way that our pharmaceutical companies work is they're competing with each other for exclusivity of drugs that are
Hmm.
superior to other drugs. Part of the patenting and the approval process is, how profitable can this drug be for me compared to, like, if these other companies don't have it and they're not selling it to the hospitals, how profitable is this? Not, and their focus is not
Not on efficacy
how
or anything like that.
effective
Yeah.
is this without side effects, without long-term effects. They don't even think about what they're actually doing to people. They're just thinking about how much silver they can line their pockets with, man. Like, what the fuck?
stood out to me was that a drug, and I don't know the time frames or anything like that, but a drug has a certain amount of time that it's allowed to be not, what's the words I'm looking for here? It'll be sold at cost or at a higher price in the beginning. And then after a certain amount of years, then generics are allowed to enter the market. So those drugs can be made for pennies on the dollar compared to the other and are sitting in the, the wings waiting to come out. But because of whatever legal reason, we're paying $10,000 for, one syringe of this or one pill of that when, the generic is pennies on the dollar. It breaks my heart.
It sucks, and I 100% agree with you guys. But the one very smart businessman talked to me about this recently. He said if that capitalism didn't exist, they would have no incentive to do any of this.
I get it.
If that race wasn't on to beat each other out to make $1 billion, these companies just would never have had the money. And it would be, because America develops the drugs that Canada and all these people use, and they just use it in a better way and in a more righteous way. But this capitalistic system of trying to make the $1 billion off this shit is what's got these guys and the top scientists in the world grinding it out to try to do it. And
now it's a philosophical debate,
Yeah,
do it for money or love of humanity. Pick one.
Right, but you have to have the money to do it either way.
I get it.
Which sucks because I'm 100% against the fucking medical. I've been going through it myself. I've watched, my best friend pass away from cancer after 18 months of hell, and a lot of that was just due to mismanagement and bullshit, and I fucking hate it. And it's crazy because I have another good friend that got out of TV and went into pharmaceutical sales, and he was in there for a while, and they had a juvenile diabetes drug that they knew was bunk, and they had 6 months where they were allowed to fight the FDA or whatever till it got pulled, and they had all these incentives to whoever could sell the most of it in that 6 month time got bonuses and all that shit, and that's why he quit. He's like, I can't fucking do this. But yet, they have a time where they decide that it's bad, and then they get to the court proceedings or whatever to while they prove that it is, but it gets to stay on the market during that time. And it's
every time there's a stay, they push things out, they ask for more discovery for this, and they put out that litigation model where they just string it out, kind of like politics. So if we'll just ask another question or say no because of this, no because of this, let's try one more, try until they finally say we have to. And all that time, you're poisoning people.
Yeah, we have a government that's on one side or the other. There's no middle. So there should be a middle where yes, we need to make profit, but not at the expense of humans and their health. How do we figure out how to subsidize that as a government so that R&D keeps happening without having to deal with just killing tons of people and filling them full of poison and not wanting to do preventative medicine because they prevent everything. These guys don't make any money.
What's really funny too?
Yeah.
Presently, the U.S. allocates a staggering 18% of its GDP to healthcare. Do you know how much that is?
Trillions, probably.
That is $4.5 trillion.
Yeah.
You're telling me that we can't afford to pay for pharmaceutical research and preventative medicine for everyone?
We can. No, we can if the government did that. That's what I'm saying. The government needs to get involved in that process, but the companies have no incentive to do that because they're just capitalists. The government needs to put part of that money into the right place and subsidize it, because without that system, these companies can't make enough money to do it on their own, and they're evil motherfuckers and they're trying to keep as much profit. Our government doesn't help us with anything.
Think about imaging products. I myself have had so much imaging done for so many stupid injuries and stuff like that. From CTs to MRIs to X-rays to whatever, we're going to inject this in you and take a picture of you that way and whatever it is. Outside of maintenance of that particular machine, the giant Polaroid camera, if you will, that costs more and obviously is super intricate, whatever. But doesn't it pay for itself after, $150,000 scans that you've charged? It's paid for, yet it'll continue taking pictures at the same price or raising with, inflation when, it's just whatever film or person that needs to fill the chair to run the thing or the parts that are used to maintain it. That right there alone is insanity to me.
Yeah.
this is where the excuses don't line up with reality. It's just excuse after excuse to fill someone's pocket with
Yep.
silver. And it bothers me a lot. It pisses me off, dude. There's the vast majority of this 4.5 trillion, which is funneled towards managing chronic diseases and implementing late stage interventions. And that just doesn't make any sense, because if we want a healthy America, if we want workers that are contributing to society's growth, that are creative, that are masters of their craft, you don't let them get to this state of health. You should educate them. You should give them power to manage their vessel, this body that they exist in, like in the Bible. I mean, I'm not a diehard Christian, but like, your body is your temple. So we should be knowing how to take care of ourselves so that we can contribute to society. But instead, we're contributing to someone else as their little worker bees. And that person is taking on the role of being like, I'm the one who deserves to contribute to society and mold what society is. These other people, they're not important. They're just little worker bees. I don't care how long they live. They can die off. We'll just replace them real quick, you know? And I don't like that mindset, because
Nah.
one of the greatest powers of a human being is that each human being has a different mind, different genetic code, a different potential outcome. And if you really, really spend time creating potential for that person by giving them the tools they need, they can create something that you would never even be able to dream of,
They're supposed to.
because that's what we do. That's how we
Yeah.
get better. That's how we support each other in this country. That's how we should. But we're being overrun by greed on a level that our country has never seen before, man.
You know, we
It's
don't
horrible.
necessarily talk about politics all that much, and we're not necessarily talking about that right now. We're just kind of talking about how we're treating humans in this country and the predatory nature of the healthcare system. There was something interesting that I saw the other day, and it was talking about commercials and when they were allowed. There used to be a law in place. They weren't allowed to advertise to children, and then somewhere around the 80s, I guess it was Reagan, um, did away with the law and allowed them to start advertising to kids. And of course, for us three, we know what that looked like. It was an onslaught of toys and cereal boxes and Nerf guns and everything in between. The floodgates opened. And I think that that's just another, it was really a moment where it just caught me off guard. Like, I didn't think about what it meant to be putting things at such an early age, into their minds, and the sword that was wielded by the government or businesses versus, the families or the friendships, the smaller community, man. It was wild to hear that there was actually something in place that we removed. Like, I can understand trying to close it, but why did we open it?
Money. Whoever was paying for whatever dickhead got elected, that was their agenda, and that's how it works.
God, man.
And that's the problem. Money is
Yeah.
just our own illusion that we created to make excuses for things that we do.
Not real.
You can have zero money and still do so much. Like, at one point I was living out of my car in a parking lot working as a personal trainer. Now I own my own business, and I've created for myself everything that I wanted to do. Anyone can do that if they have the willpower to do it, you know? But why are we not giving people the ability to have the willpower to do this? I'm not going into politics here, but why are the mentioning of population control, like, why is that happening?
Is it,
Like,
I hear words like this, but I got to be honest, my media filter is very, very, very small, because I don't believe about 98% of what is bombarded from these different sources. I feel that the majority of them are not trustworthy. Do I believe something like that could be happening? Hell yeah. 100% probably is in one way, shape, or form. We know that there are decisions made that will affect the populace that we will never know about, that, you're probably about to discuss.
It's something that our vice president said. And it's things like this. It slips, it slips when they're talking to the general public. Our leaders spend so much time talking amongst themselves with the elites, the people that actually plan everything that's going on for their benefit, that when they start talking to the people, they're so used to talking to these other people that things just slip out.
They gotta have a cutoff age before Uncle Henry starts telling the family secrets.
Oh, you mean our 1 million year old president that has
everyone in
no
between,
idea where
man,
he's
they're
at
all
ever?
that way. I feel like they should have the new litmus test for being in official office is whether or not you could save a PDF.
Or you could tie your shoes, or like know what state you're in, or like, I mean, fucking Jesus, man. Like, I'm a very liberal person, but I don't identify in any way, shape, or form with a political party. But like, damn, like the options are given us with close to 400 million humans in this country, and the people that we have to choose from is ridiculous.
It sucks. It's like the Muppet Show.
Yeah, I mean, they're both the option. You have are super old guys that are either definitely evil, most likely evil, but definitely don't know where they're at, or they're not qualified.
I feel like you just gave me a survey. Like,
yeah.
Do you like it? Not like it so much? Kind of like it. Yeah, you're right, dude. They suck on so many levels. They're parading the worst of the worst.
Yeah. And honestly, to get into that, we would need like a 10-hour podcast. But in about 20 minutes, just so you guys know, I'm going to have to go spar. So I want to get into the next thing I was going to talk about, which is the 5-element model and what my whole book is based upon.
Do it, man.
And how we can't change all this that we're talking about, all this corruption, all this bullshit, but we can change what each individual does for themselves. And that's why I wrote the book, The 5 Elements of Preventative Medicine, so that way I could put this information out there so the public can access it and hopefully utilize it. So basically what the 5-element model is a different way of seeing the world. It's not literal wood, fire, earth, water. It's not like Avatar, The Last Airbender shit. It's thinking about your health from mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, social aspects, bioelectrical, structural, musculoskeletal, thinking about your digestive, your biochemical systems from an interconnected microcosm way. And seeing how, like, if you've got one element that's really well taken care of and you've got another element that's not, this element that's deficient is going to not generate enough in this other element. And when this element becomes deficient, well, another one's going to go into excess. It's like, for example, people who are on the computer all the time, they get this called upper cross syndrome because their chest muscles are so tight.
I just moved my head back instinctively. I was like,
yeah, I'm like,
go like this. So what we teach people as a manual therapist like myself is tuck your chin like there's a string pulling the top of your head towards the ceiling. That straightens your cervical spine. It puts tension on your chest muscles to stretch them, strengthens your trap muscles. So that's already an elemental correction. And you can make thousands of those.
I think they do make those like shoulder like devices that'll hold you like, like you're standing at attention. They have those, correct your posture, like strap things. I think just holding your own shoulders up is probably the best way to take care of this.
But if you're typing and you're sitting there all day, like you're probably not thinking to like hold your shoulders up. So if there was something that wasn't ridiculous that could hold you there, that could be better.
That's another good point, because then that goes into another element that goes into your cognitive element or your fire element, and that's your awareness of what's going on in your body. It's easy for us to get so focused on the work that we're doing, so over-focused that we just completely forget what our body's doing. But it is actually possible to be focused on this and this at the same time, you know, and that's something you have to develop. You have to like put work into it. Mindfulness. We don't teach that in school, man.
No, not at all. I'm pissed that we don't.
Ohio.
I'm pissed that I didn't
Hicksville,
figure out.
Ohio, bro.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we talking shit about Ohio?
Yeah. Hicksville, Ohio. I'll talk shit about. Man,
which part of Hicks? What's Hicksville? Which part?
So that's northwestern Ohio, close to Fort Wayne.
Why do I feel like shots are fired at me at the same time in this? I'm not cool with this, like, Hicksville. It's my last name, for God's sakes.
Andrew Hillbilly, so it's like it's same time.
There's 2 Hicksvilles in America. One's in Ohio, one's in New York. I've never been to the one.
Hicksville.
Yeah, it's actually Hicksville.
Like, Gary's from Ohio. Where is this? How do you not know where this is, Gary?
Because it's like,
don't all Ohioans know everything about Ohio?
No, there's people that live in the city and there's Amish people.
There's whoopie pies and moon pies.
So just so you know, Hicksville is the Amish people.
Oh, is it really?
It's like,
oh yeah, horse and buggies all the time, man.
Nice.
And people
don't
who
realize
are just
that,
like, so isolated.
Amish stuff.
Oh, I've seen it. I lived in upstate New York when I was in the Army, and there's Amish up and down 81, all the way through Pennsylvania, all the way down through. Like, all the stops on that road has like Amish something.
And I'll tell you what, man, there's actually a lot of things I really love about having grown up in that town. But then I think about the things that should have been there. And not only are they not present in that town's education system, they're not present in the whole United States education system. And I'm not going to say it's not present everywhere, but as a whole, people don't learn mindfulness.
No.
Maybe we're starting to, maybe we're getting closer, but it needs to be like curriculum, man. Like, not some support for some kid that we think has special needs. No, every kid needs to know how to use their mind.
So you guys got like
there you are.
Like a huge mural in your town that like everybody was talking about? Is that you guys?
They did just put that up recently, and honestly, that's pretty beautiful mural. I was recently back. The town has changed quite a bit since the last time I was there, and everything's improving. But how can we make it improve better? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I'm big into art and graffiti and shit. And I was looking at some street art type stuff, and I'm pretty sure I saw something that was Hicksville.
Yeah, Hicksville is like, you'll drive through on your way to Fort Wayne.
It's a wasted opportunity to live in a small rural community, not understanding mindfulness. It's almost ironic that you're in the most peaceful area where you could enjoy mindfulness at its peak, but they're not teaching it to you while you're sitting there. They're indoctrinating you instead.
Small town mindset.
Dude.
And usually a tremendous amount of poverty and opiate addiction in Ohio and the small towns too.
Yeah,
absolutely, man.
In Florida.
There was a lot of drug stuff going on in my town. I tell you what, I'm going to get into my countryside. I'm like Hank Hill over here. I tell you what.
You just completely changed. They don't talk like that in Los Angeles.
No damn Valentine's to a boy, son.
God damn it, Bobby.
Damn it, Bobby.
Yeah.
But you're right, dude. I grew up in that same environment. And I don't want to disrespect small town America, because there's a lot of great things about it. There's a community, there is love, there is, a sense of protection, with your neighbors, that they're looking out for you and things like that. But there's less and less of that and more of what we're discussing these days. And in Florida, they're just, chucking ninja stars with tutus on, wearing tiaras and a camouflage jacket, all jacked up on whatever drug in front of 7-Eleven at any given moment.
That has to be your Halloween costume. The exact thing you described.
I just rattled off some bizarre words. I don't know, because you don't have to. When you name what a meth head's wearing on a corner, you could literally just name off whatever. If you jumped into a trash can and came out, ha, you'd be in a meth head's outfit.
It's just normal to them. Yeah.
Dude, it's normal here. Like, oh my God. But the fact is that they put time into them. That's the ones that I love. The ones that actually went out of their way to make it look a specific way. I got some love for that. Like there's a creative heart in there.
Yeah, it's the 4-year-old that, like in what is it, Big Daddy, where the kid likes to wear his his rain boots and his cape and shit at the same time.
Beautiful. Be you, man. If you're gonna dude, okay, so if I'm gonna be strung out on something, I at least want to be acting like a fucking goof ass. Like I don't want to be the guy that's, shitting in the cafeteria or anything like that. I want to be the dude that's wearing galoshes and a fucking tutu.
Or the guy who's just like extremely aggressive for no reason, like kicking down people's planners, like the goofy guy is at least someone you can be like, look at him. He's just enjoying himself in his own little world over there.
Go.
Yeah. Not like, yo, don't get within 3 feet of that guy.
He's a spitter. Like you don't want to be the spitter.
No, not the spitter, man.
The spitter's the worst.
Like not the COVID spreader.
Oh, yeah. No. So why don't you tell everybody, because you said you're a business owner, you're so interested in the medical community. Why don't you tell us about Sanctuary of Healing?
Sanctuary of Art and Healing is my business. Our business model is to not profit off of health providers. So a lot of times I'm working with new graduate doctors, getting them in, and it's a sole proprietorship. So I don't have employees at all. I take them in, teach them how to have their own business license, teach them how to do their taxes, teach them how to do their marketing, teach them how to be a doctor in their own way and support the community in their own way. And I'm supporting them. So I give them a beautiful space, clean space. I give them supplies, treatment rooms, and bring them to events with me. Sometimes we work with veterans. We go to these fights. When I go train at Dan Henderson's, sometimes I bring a doctor with me and they'll treat the fighters. And it's all donation based. We're not like, yeah, we'll treat you for $200. It's like, all right, man, how's your shoulder going? You blew out your AC joint. All right, let me take a look at that real quick. Go through the range of motion, figure out what's really going on, and help them keep fighting. So Sanctuary of Art and Healing is my way of giving back to the community and creating this impact of like, wow, healing is available, and it's you don't have to have premium $10,000 insurance, like I'm fighting that. And going back to the small town talk is I've seen the most people who actually need that healing, but they just don't know how to get it, including my own family.
They don't even know it exists.
Why, yeah. And that's why, like, I may have had more of a negative tone when I was talking about Hicksville, but I actually love Hicksville. And I'd love to help everybody there, give back to them one day too, once I expand. I just want people to know that preventative healthcare it's not an afterthought. It's not optional. It is the cornerstone of healthcare. It's where individuals don't wait until they're sick to seek medical advice. Sick mentally, sick spiritually, sick physically, internally. But you proactively manage your health to prevent illness from ever taking root. Then you can accomplish anything. And I talk about a guy in my book. His name was Li Qingyuan. He was an herbalist from China, born in the 1800s, died in 1933. He died at the age of 256. That could be normal.
Whoa, what? He died how old?
He died at 256.
Holy. I didn't know that was possible, at least in this day and age. Like, that's the first I've heard of that many years. What?
Yeah. And
Wow.
It's crazy.
But I get it. So, not a religious guy either, but I've always thought along the lines of age, right? They speak in the Bible and texts from earlier man about ages being a lot longer than they are now, where we live these shortened amounts. And it often comes to mind that are we in fact living a shorter lifespan for the simple fact that we have more mental illness from the human condition that is causing our actual physical well-being to diminish to the point where our lives are actually not longer, but they're just now starting to come back from what was like almost an all-time low?
and there was this era that we went through where we thought that our knowledge was so superior, but these procedures that we were doing were literally killing people, and we were injecting things that are literal poison. And we were like, yeah, our science is so superior to these ancient ways. And then we were kind of like slowly like figuring out, oh yeah, we got to test these and go through trials, clinical trials, get the efficacy, make sure it's right. But we're still not doing it right. We're
No.
getting closer, but the idea of this superiority, the idea of this having an ego in our science needs to just get the hell out. Because that's not science, man. Science is discovery and creativity. It's using what you already know. And when you think about what I've based this 5 element model on and translated it for us to like think about, understand, it's 10,000 years old, 10,000 years of scholars spending and dedicating their lives to developing and looking at the world this way because it works. So if we can add this model to our individual life, to our doctors uh repertoire, like their skill set, they can use it as a tool. It's
I
going to
believe it.
change everything.
I mean, I don't like to use analogies for people for inanimate objects, but it's like a car. Change the oil, rotate the tires, change the spark plugs. Like your car's going to run a lot longer and a lot better. You don't wait till the motor seizes to then start fucking putting oil into it.
Yeah.
Uh, I went through that whole 10x deal, and I found it to be not affordable for the average human being. But the testing part of it at the beginning, I found it to be very effective and interesting. To go through every possible way, they test everything that they could figure out a way to test in your body, genetic, family history, and give you a write up of every level of everything. And they try to sell you a bunch of shit, but then at least you have that information to go
To
off.
they try to sell you stuff that answers the questions that they gave you, or like the
But it's
deficiencies that you have from their test.
right. But
I
it's
know,
like
I'm
a lot of
kidding.
it
I
is
get.
no, but it is, and it's hard to tell because they are trying to sell you something. So you're like, it's business and it's doing very well, so we're making money.
100%.
And then you see these numbers, and they're like, this level of this is bad. I don't know that. They seem to know, and then they're like, this is bad. Then it leads to this and that, and if you do some research and you look at the numbers, and I've done a little bit of it, it seems to be like accurate information that these levels of things are bad, kind of. But whether it's good or bad, like I've never before gone to the doctor and just got like a full health workup on everything without like being very sick or something. Like they never go like, here's your cholesterol, here's this, here's your testosterone, here's your I'm making these magnesium and blah, 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 blah. They test like all the shit. I've never had that before,
Yeah.
where they do any of that to
Bro,
see,
I didn't until I got married, because I got to tell you, my wife treats me like the dog and sets me an appointment once a year to go see the doctor, like the vet, and I go get that stuff checked now. I never did before. I'm with you that they do not provide any kind of proactive medicine in this country throughout, your lifetime. I feel like the healthcare system is a strainer in that it literally only exists to extract money, and it goes all the way through to the last day. It can extract money from you up to the last possible second. In fact, I would argue that the screen gets that much smaller towards the end to make sure that it grabs every last penny before you die.
And it carries over after your death onto your family.
Yep.
It follows you.
I'm watching
The
my mom
greed
with
is
cancer
real.
right now. Been watching her for about 4 years with it, and it is a racket like no other.
The greed is real, my dudes.
Unbelievable.
And that's why I'm fighting.
So that's why you're getting into the octagon. Gary, having the background that you have, I want to give just a minute or two as well to have you talk to Jordan about what his fighting experience has felt like.
Well, who or where are you training at and going to spar at? I'm just curious.
Oh, after this, be going to Undisputed in San Diego. It's on University Avenue, El Cajon area. It's kind of one of those gritty gyms, and dirty places, but
The best.
they've got a sign right when you go to the front door that says "Leave your ego at the door," and I love it, man.
I'm actually going to a party tonight for the release of the Undisputed video game. So,
you suck, man. That's super cool. God, man, we said that we were just on an episode of Florida Man on Florida Man, and Josh and Wayne are fucking awesome, and now we all just text each other constantly. And the thing that we consistently said is that Gary will come in and drop a card that trumps what anybody else has. And he's like, yeah, I'm hanging out with Mike Tyson this week. And you're like, yeah,
well,
dude.
I will be twice.
I know. That's I'm like, dude, man, they just got the new caramel frappuccino. Finally here. He's like, I'm going to see Mike Tyson. You're like, fucking, I'm done. Even
that's a boxing gym though, right?
Undisputed? That's a Muay Thai gym.
Oh,
they do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing there too, though. But
nice.
Very big boxing culture there too, for sure.
Yeah, I love boxing. I've been down in San Diego a lot with Pearl Gonzalez and Jeremy Stevens over the last year, going to a bunch of different gyms that they go to. I like that area a lot. And I know you've been going to Temecula too. Joe Daddy's an old friend of mine.
I love that guy, man. He's such a good coach. Genuine guy too.
Dude, just a smile. You can't look at that guy and not smile.
Yeah, really
great
good dude.
Fight career too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he only calls me like to check on me just as a cool friend or to like help somebody else. Like it's never like a lot of people in the fight game and will call me because they need something, which is cool. I'm there to help, but he always calls me just to check on me, which is rare for anybody to do. And then like I got a guy that's you could help him with the X, Y, and Z, and it's always to help somebody else or just to be a cool dude and check on me after years and years. So yeah, definitely a good dude. And he's all about his guys, he's a great dad. And then he treats his students just like he treats his kids, it's good. It's good to see that.
I've seen his character from training with him at Henderson's. All my classes have been with him or Jeff Creighton. Do you know Jeff Creighton? Crazy Creighton?
I don't know him personally, but I know you definitely know of him.
He's also a really good guy too. Really great guy to train with. And he's been so patient with me on my grappling level and wrestling level. And I feel like training with those two this past fight camp has improved me so much. It's insane when people give to you how much you can really improve. And it made me want to give back to them so much, not just because they gave to me, but they're just such genuine people. Joe is the guy who set up everything so I could treat at Dan Henderson's after the practices, and it really shows how much he cares about the guys.
Yeah, he's a genius, man. Like that guy will look at a guy doing a technique from across the room and be like, just grab your thumb like this instead of like this, and it will change the whole entire move. And I
love how straightforward he is too. He's like, that sucks. He's like,
he is
doing
very
that.
blunt.
Yeah. We got to have him on the show. He'll definitely come on.
Oh, definitely. Let's bring him on anytime.
He's seen it all.
I'll mention to him on Wednesday when I see him next week. I'll be like, we talked about you on Tragedy Academy. You should go and talk to the guys.
Dude,
I'm sure Gary would get him on here easily.
Yeah, shit. I was actually wearing the shirt from his TV show. I was wearing the Navy Street MMA shirt earlier, and I had toothpaste on it. I was going to wear it for this show. I brushed my teeth aggressively. So I changed it.
See, I'm I'm a brush my teeth before my shirt goes on guy.
Yeah, I normally do because I'm a savage, but I was running all around today, and I just for some reason I brushed my teeth before these podcasts. Yeah, I don't know why I have to brush my teeth before these podcasts, and then I'm sitting there like you can't smell my breath.
I don't know why. Yeah. I'm just imagining some Dane Cook classic aggression, fuck,
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, you never brush your teeth with any less anger than with the moment that you forgot to brush your teeth. If you forget to brush your teeth and you get a toothbrush in your hand, you'll make your gums bleed and you will cut the time down by a good 30 seconds. If I just brush it harder and madder, maybe it'll work just as well as if I had remembered.
Yeah. All right, guys. This is as far as I can go. But
no, genuinely appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. I do want to shout out some of my sponsors, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Go Fuel. I believe in them a lot as a sports energy drink because they don't have shit, shitty shit inside their drink. They've got cordyceps, which is essential for training and avoiding fatigue. Support your kidneys. Chinese herb. They've got amino acids, only 200 milligrams of caffeine. And as an athlete, this has helped me a lot in my training. Also want to shout out Dan Henderson's for the amazing training that they've given me. Joe, I want to shout out Dan Hendo himself. And I'd also like to mention West Coast Wing Chun, my traditional seafood, because he's been my foundation, my mother, my father, and I want to thank you guys for supporting me as well. I'd be happy to be on to talk about this more in depth because we didn't even get 5% into my book, but it's been a pleasure to meet you, man. What'd you say?
When does it come out?
It's going to come out in September, so be on the lookout for the 5 elements of preventative medicine. I'm going to narrate it myself. I'm going to put it on iBooks, Audible, Amazon, so it'll be out there. And I'm ready for America to read it and for us to all change collectively because that's what we need right now.
I'm sure Jay will agree, but once it's out, we're both going to read it, and then we'll have you back on after we do so we can discuss it where we have a knowledge of, what it is. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed meeting you, Gary. Jay talks about you so much.